الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين والسيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين ونبي الصادق الأمين ورحمة للعالمين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد فقد قال تبارك وتعالى في موقع كتابه الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كل نفس ذائقة الموت ثم إلينا ترجعون صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Mu'mineen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The subject of death and preparation for death is a subject which is relevant to each and every one of us here. Because there's no man who can run from death and there's no one who can hide from death. And death will eventually find and catch us all. As in Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 57, it says, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ ثُمَّ إِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Every soul shall taste death, and then to us you shall return. And when he says that, it says every soul shall taste death. That includes the souls of Prophet Isa and Prophet Khidr, the souls of Ashab al-Kahf and Prophet Ilyas, those souls which have been alive for thousands of years. And each of those souls shall taste the flavor of death. And in this ever uncertain world, you find that there's only one reality. The reality is death. As in, Benjamin Franklin has a humorous line on this subject. He says that there are two realities in life. Number one, taxes, and number two, death. And since I don't need to tell any of you about taxes being a reality, I'm going to talk about how death is a reality. And when you find the statement that says death is a reality, you find it to be quite ironic. As in, most people consider death and life polar opposites, and they compare this to things like darkness and light. But however, any analogy comparing death and life as polar opposites ultimately fails, because death and life aren't opposites, but they're rather on the same journey. They're part of the same journey that every man goes through. As in, when you compare death and life to darkness and light, you're implying that death is the absence of life. As in, those of you who've studied science, as in Bilal over here, he tells us that darkness doesn't exist. Darkness is just a state where there's the absence of light, correct? And when you say darkness and light is like that, you're saying that death is the absence of life. But however, we know that death is not the absence of life. But in actuality, when you die, you're even more alive than ever. As in, after death is when the veils of these limited eyes are removed from us. After death is when we realize how much time we wasted in this world. After death, we realize what an opportunity we had. And after death, for many, it's the first time they wake up. As in, there's a line in the movie Braveheart where William Wallace says that every man dies, but not every man lives. And how true is that? You find people chasing the pleasures of this world thinking they are living, but no, they're only going to live once they die. And after they die, they'll find that the world they chase is going to have no avail to them. And when you find something a reality like that, then logically you should start preparing for it. As in, there are people who don't know for a fact that something will happen, but they start preparing for it years in advance. One small example. A child is born into a household. Parents are obviously happy. It's their first child. So they go out, like many parents, and get a child growth plan. So they can make monthly payments month by month, so when the child comes to age, he can go into a good college and get an education. Now, these parents, of course, they're good parents for doing so, but they don't even know if the child will live to see the age of 18 or live to see the age when he can go to college. But they're preparing for something 18 years in advance. I mean, it's possible that he doesn't live to see that age, you know? Death can come to even those who are young, despite what we like to think, us young people, most of us. And then Another example of this is that you find if they predict a famine or a drought, as in those people are going to be affected, they start gathering food and water so they don't have to face hunger and thirst because of this famine. But they don't care about anything of the hunger and thirst of the day of judgment, which is going to be unbearable to anything we have, anything we'll face. And you can't be ready for that unless you prepare. And this preparation for the hereafter is something the prophets and the Imma used to stress on. As you find Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abu Talib, he used to announce every single night before going to bed from the mosque. He used to go there and say, "Oh people, get ready and make preparations for your journey to the hereafter. May Allah have mercy on you. The proclaimer of death is announcing, take heed. Be prepared for departing. You'll face many dangers there." This is something Imam Ali used to announce every single night, not just one night, every single night. So now, taking advice from the words of Imam Ali, the question comes up, how do we prepare for this death? And when you examine the books of hadith, there are many things we can do to help us get us through the challenges that we face at the time of death and after death. As in, for example, you find that there are things to help you at the difficult moment of when death arrives. As in, Sheikh Saduq quotes Imam as-Sadiq as saying, "If anyone wishes to make the troubles of death easy and light, he should maintain good relations with his relatives. He should be kind and gentle with his parents. One who behaves like this will die easily, and his lifetime he will not be troubled with scarcity, and on the contrary, he'll live happily." As in, you also find there's things to help you through washat al-qabr, the fear and the horror of the grave. Amongst them, you can recite Surah al-Yasin every night before you go to bed. There are also things that can help you through fishar al-qabr, the constriction of the grave. Amongst them is reciting Surah al-Nisa on Fridays, making a habit of reciting Surah al-Zuqraf, reciting Salat al-Layl, being buried in Wadi as-Salam in Najaf. And all these are little things we can do. And there's also things we can do in general, like memorizing ayats of the Quran, because we never know when one of these ayats can help us in the hereafter. As in Ayatullah Najafi Kochani writes in the book, Sayyayat al-Sharq, translated in the English language as Journey to the Unseen World. He writes in this book, he writes about how he saw his hereafter through dreams. And of course, all this was backed up through hadith and Quran and whatnot. But he writes about when he in his hereafter, when the questioning of Munkar and Nakir came. Munkar and Nakir in front of him asking the simplest question. They ask him, Man Rabbuk, who is your Lord? Now this is a question a child can answer, as in when you're born at 2 years old, your parents stress, Allah ek, Allah ek, Allah ek. And they're telling you this, and now over here an Ayatullah, more knowledgeable than any of us here, is standing there and he can't answer the simplest of questions, Man Rabbuk, who is your Lord? So Ayatullah Najafi Kochani says, I couldn't control my senses, this fear just overtook me. And then something happened. He says, whenever in this world I was in trouble, I seek the intercession of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And my heart sought for Amir al-Mu'mineen, and all of a sudden a little strength came to me. And once that strength came to me, I remember 2 ayats I used to recite. Surah al-Hashr verses 22 and 23 I used to recite. And those ayats had the answers inside them. So we never know when these ayats we memorize, whether this Quran we recite, and we make it a habit, when it'll come to help us. And while the subject of preparing for death is a vast topic, and lecture after lecture after lecture can be given, and any alim can say that, we'll agree with that, I'm only going to discuss a couple of things that can help us prepare for death. Number 1, performing every action with the niyat of qurbatin ilallah, or seeking nearness to Allah. Number 2, remembering death often. And number 3, a line of Abu Huraira that he says at the Battle of Siffin, which we can use in our lives every single day to make the right decision. So please recite one salawat. The first of things to be discussed is performing all actions with the niyat of qurbatin ilallah. The beauty of our religion is that we can take any action, any normal action that we do just to survive, and we can make that into ibadat. As in, we can turn this daily routine into a routine of ibadat that'll help us in the hereafter. For example, now you're going to ask how we do this. In the religion of Islam, actions are either haram, they're makruh, they're mubah, they're mustab, or they're halal. And these actions which are mustab are these actions which can really help you. Or these actions which are mubah are the actions which can really help you. Now you may ask, how so? Mubah actions are those set of actions which don't have sawab, they don't have punishment. They're just drinking water, eating, walking. And the beauty of Islam behind these actions is that these necessary actions that we can do through the right intention can help us in the hereafter. For example, we go to sleep. Sleep has no gain for us except physical gain. But if we sleep with the niyat of khurbatin ilallah, with the niyat of seeking nearness to Allah, we sleep with the intention of waking up for Salat al-Fajr, we include mustahab acts before we go to sleep, we perform our wudu before we go to sleep, we can pick up the reward of reciting Salat all night through that sleep. Now that sleep which was going to be useless, wasted time in our lives, we turn that into time that can help us in the hereafter. As another example of this is if we're drinking water. Drinking water is nothing but physical gains. We're thirsty, we're human beings, we need to survive, we need to drink water. But if we drink water with the niyat of khurbatin ilallah, we can turn this water into ibadat. If we drink water with the niyat that we're drinking water to energize us so we can serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this water becomes sawab, it becomes ibadat. If we drink water standing in the day and sitting at night, it becomes ibadat. If we remember Imam al-Hussein and send lana on those who denied him water, this water becomes ibadat. As Imam as-Sadiq says, while drinking water, whoever remembers Imam al-Hussein and his family and invokes lanat on those who tormented him, 100,000 good deeds will be written in his scrolls. 100,000 sins will be forgiven. He will be elevated 100,000 times. And he will be rewarded to the extent that he has freed 100,000 slaves in the way of Allah. And on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will personally look towards his welfare. As in, this is what Abu Abdullah al-Hussein can do. Please send one salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi.
So we find that doing things khurbatin ilallah, seeking nearness to Allah, is a way that we can help ourselves prepare for this hereafter. But this concept, it's not an easy concept to understand. As in, let me give you a small example to show how difficult it can be. The distance you are from me is the distance I am from you, correct? If you're sitting 2 feet and 3 inches away from me, I'm 2 feet and 3 inches away from you. So how is it that we recite Salat khurbatin ilallah, we go to Hajj khurbatin ilallah, we fast khurbatin ilallah, we pay khums khurbatin ilallah, but we remain this far from Allah, but Allah is closer to us than our jugular veins? How is it that? So it's not an easy concept to fathom, but inshallah, if we keep doing these little things with the right niyat and including little mustahab acts, we can reach a stage where we can look death straight in the face and say, you don't scare me. As in, we can reach a level that will help avoid the fate of the Jews. As in, the Jews in the time of the Prophet, they used to say, oh, we are the awliya of Allah, we are the chosen ones of Allah, but the Quran replies to them, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ هَادُوا إِنْ زَعَمْتُمْ أَنَّكُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ لِلَّهِ مِنْ دُونِ النَّاسِ فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتَ إِنْ كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ. O Prophet, say to the Jews, if you claim that you are Allah's favorites instead of other people, then seek that. Seek that if you are Allah's favorites, but they will never long for it. As in, these Jews, they didn't perform their actions with khurbatin ilallah. They performed their actions for personal gains. They performed it for gaining wealth. But if they performed these actions seeking nearness to Allah, then they could have truly been the awliya Allah. And this verse also has a lesson for each and every one of us. As in, we are the Shias of Ali. We say that we are the chosen ones of Allah, but we need to reach a stage before we say we're the chosen ones of Allah that we can look death right in the face and say, you don't scare me. We need to reach that level. Now, another way we can prepare for death is to remember it often. And this has been expressed by the Imams of Ahl-Bayt and their companions on numerous occasions. They would remind themselves of death constantly. They would tell each other about death, because whatever you do in this world, know that death is knocking right behind you. Death is walking right behind you. Death is shadowing you. As in, this was seen during the period of Imam al-Hadi's imprisonment. As in, the Basit Khalifa al-Mutawakkil put Imam al-Hadi in prison. So one day some people come and visit Imam al-Hadi, and they see him in prison, and they see that there's a grave in his prison cell right next to his prayer mat. And as a follower of Imam al-Hadi, they're concerned. Maybe he's sick, maybe something happened, maybe Al-Mutawakkil did something. And they ask, Ya Imam al-Hadi, why is that grave right there? And he says, I put that grave right there in order to remember the end. I keep the grave in front of my eyes. As an Imam al-Hadi, this is Imam al-Hadi who doesn't do any sin, and he keeps the grave right in front of him. He keeps that grave to remind him of what eventually will happen to us all. We also find that Bahlul, the famous companion, the famous student of Imam al-Sadiq and companions of our Imams, one day asked Harun al-Rashid, and he said, Ya Harun, give me the keys to the prison. Harun gives him the keys, Bahlul runs out. A few hours later, guards come to Harun. They said to him, oh Harun, every prisoner in Baghdad has been released. Every prisoner, he's gone. Harun's like, no, what did I do? So he said, go find Bahlul. So they're finding Bahlul. A few hours later, they come and they find Bahlul in the graveyard. He's just sitting there crying by himself. Just sitting there and crying. And he says, oh Bahlul. Harun says to Bahlul, oh Bahlul, you will have to pay for this. He said, how am I going to pay for this? You will have to pay for it? How am I going to pay for it? Then Harun says, you have to get back every single prisoner. And Bahlul replies, then let's wait in this graveyard, because there will be a day when all of them will come here. As in, there will be that day when all of them will come here. And if you remind yourselves of death, and I take this responsibility with you, I make an oath with each of you here, remind me of death and I'll remind you of death. As in how Imam al-Hadi reminded others, we should remind each other. And how Bahlul reminded others, we should remind each other of death. And this remembrance of death is something which will make things easier when death finally comes. And every day we make decisions that impact if death is going to be easy for us or hard. And so many times we fail and make the wrong decisions. We try to have the best in the hereafter, and we try to keep the dunya. We try to be businessmen and have the best there, and we try to have the best right here. As in, there's a line about Abu Huraira said, which I want each and every one of you to keep. Now you're thinking, we have 124,000 prophets and we have 14 A'immah, and you're giving us a line of Abu Huraira? Yes, that's exactly what's happening right now. As in Abu Huraira in the battle of Siffin, he didn't know if he wanted to pick the side of Imam Ali or if he wanted to pick the side of Muawiyah. So he says, Salat is so good with Ali, but food is so good with Muawiyah. In the middle is what's best for Abu Huraira. As in, first of all, this line shows that Abu Huraira knew the truth, of course. I mean, he's saying Salat is good with Ali, and of course we know Salat is the best thing for the hereafter, not food. But he also says that we should take lessons from this, because we know what the path of Ali is. We know the path of the hereafter, and we know what the path of this dunya is, the path of Muawiyah. And we try to do the same thing. We try to sit in the middle and pick which side we want. We try to have Muawiyah's side and we try to have Ali's side. As in, we pick and choose which wajibats we want to do. We pick and choose what sins we want to avoid. But we're doing the same thing we know the path of Ali, but we're sitting in the middle like Abu Huraira. And next time, each of you have a tough decision. Because I know these decisions that we make, especially living in this country, they're not easy. They're not easy. As those of you who go to school, those of you who go to work, things are hard. But every time you have a decision to make, decide, are you going to pick the Salat of Ali? Or are you going to pick the food of Muawiyah? Or are you going to pick the middle like Abu Huraira? Now all this before I tell you is a lesson to me first. And just like that decision's left to you, it's left to me also. And when you examine those who picked the path of Ali, you find his son Abu Fadl Abbas. This Abu Fadl Abbas was not just the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but he was the son of Fatima al-Zahra. As in, there was one day a man walking by the shrine of Abu Fadl, and in a dream he was walking by this shrine, and he says, Assalamu alayka yamna Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, Assalamu alayka yamna Fatima al-Zahra. And then he realized that Abu Fadl Abbas wasn't the son of Fatima al-Zahra, he was the son of al-Baneen, so he retracts his statement. So he goes to sleep that night and he sees none other than Fatima al-Zahra, and she's saying in a dream. That night she says, why did you take that statement away? Abu Fadl Abbas, he's my son. He is my son. And then this Abu Fazl, you find that he is given the title Bab al-Hawaij. When you need something, brothers and sisters, call on Bab al-Hawaij. Oh, you in the graves, I know you can hear me wherever you are. Call on Bab al-Hawaij, Abu Fazl Abbas. One of the ulama, Ayatollah al-Hayri, writes that there was a family in Karbala. There's a family, very famous family, and a member of that family couldn't have children. They tried and they tried and they couldn't have children. So one day they go to the shrine of Abu Fadl Abbas and they make another. They say, Ya Allah, if we have a child, we will name him Abbas. And when you make another like that, how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deny you? And he gives them a child. So some time goes by, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we don't know. But time goes by and this child gets ill. He gets sicker and he gets sicker and sicker, and until he reaches the point where he's on his deathbed. And on that deathbed, after so many years of not having a child, the mother couldn't take it. And she goes to Abu Fadl Abbas and she says to him, Ya Abu Fadl, you gave me this son, now I want you to keep him alive and cure him. There was one alim in this book, there was this one alim in the city. He wasn't there at the time, but he found out later when he was talking to the people in the city what his dream meant. He saw a dream, and in that dream he saw that he was in the shrine of Abu Fadl Abbas. And in that shrine there were angels and celestial beings everywhere. In that shrine the nur was everywhere. And then in the middle there sat Rasulullah, none other than Rasulullah on a mimbar. And after a while, an angel came in. The angel came in with a note and a request. And that note was written by Abu Fadl to Rasulullah. And that note said, Ya Rasulullah, there's a woman begging me. She is begging me to prolong the life of this child. Rasulullah handed the note back and said, Yeah, I can pray for you, but his time has come. Allah has ordered it. He's destined to die, and I don't have any power in this situation. The angels go back and there's another letter from Abbas. And this Abbas says, this woman is still not letting go. Please fulfill the request. And Rasulullah replies, his time has come. And then after a while, there was an uproar. There was an uproar in the shrine of Abu Fadl Abbas. And when you see, it was none other than Abu Fadl Abbas walking through. It's none other than Abu Fazl, and he goes right to Rasulullah and he says, Ya Rasulullah, ask Allah to take this title of Bab al-Hawaij away from me or cure that child. Everyone started crying, Rasulullah and the angels. And Rasulullah said, go back, Bab al-Hawaij. Allah is not taking that title away from you, and that child was cured. Now I ask the question, Abu Fadl, if you can't see to not fulfill the request of that mother, then how could you handle not fulfilling the request of Sakina when she asked you to bring the water? Abu Fadl went to Imam al-Hussein and he says, Oh my master, oh my leader, oh my Imam, give me permission to go. Imam replied, Walakin ya Abu Fadl, anta hamallu liwa'i. You are the holder of my flag and my standard. Anta kabshuqati bati. You are the symbol of my camp. I can't let you go. He then requests permission from Imam to bring water to the children who are crying, Alatash, Alatash, Alatash. Look at Abu Fadl Abbas. He was Bab al-Hawaij then and he is Bab al-Hawaij now. Abu Fadl seeks permission of Imam al-Hussein. Abu Fadl goes out towards the Furat. He goes towards the Furat and he fights off the soldier. He gets to the water of the Furat and he lifts the water. What is Abbas gonna do? Is he gonna drink this water? No, Abbas throws that water. How can he drink water when Hussein is thirsty? When Sakina is thirsty? When the women are thirsty? He throws that water and says, Ya nafsu min ba'dil Hussein huni وبعده ما كنت إن تكوني هذا الحسين وارد المنوني وتشربين وارد المعيني. O nafs, after Hussein, may you perish, may you not live another day. What is this life without Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? How can Abu Fadil take a drink from the Furat when his master is thirsty? Then Abu Fadil got some water to take back to the camp. He mounted on his horse and he started riding to the camp. Then someone jumped out and cut out the right hand of Abu Fadil Abbas. And when he cut the right hand, Abu Fadil says, وَلَكِنْ كَاتُمْ يَمِينِي إِنَّهُ حَامِي أَبَدًا عَنْ دِينِي وَعَنْ إِمَامٍ صَادِقِ الْأَمِينِ نَجْرُ النَّبِيِّ الطَّاهِرِ الْأَمِينِ. Then he switched the water to his left hand, and then someone cut the left hand of Abbas. Then someone struck the right eye of Abu Fadil, and Abu Fadil was falling from his horse. But when someone usually falls, when someone falls, they have hands to support him. But when Abu Fadil was falling, there was nothing to support him. He calls out, Alayka minni salam, to his brother Imam al-Hussein. My last salam's on you. There lied Abu Fadil on the ground, his body covered with blood, his eyes covered with blood. This is how Abu Abdullah saw his brother Abbas. May Allah not let you live to see the day where you see your brother in this state. May Allah not let you live to see that day. Imam al-Hussein was riding his horse to Abu Fadil, and then the horse stopped. Then the horse stopped. Imam al-Hussein wondered why it has stopped. And then he saw the hand of Abu Fadil Abbas on the ground. And then he continued and the horse goed. And then it stopped again. And then he saw the other hand of Abu Fadil on the ground. And then he saw the body of Abu Fadil. Imam al-Hussein said next to Abu Fadil and said, Abu Fadil said to him, your face was the first I had seen when I came into this world, and I want it to be the last as I leave it. Please do not take me back to the tent. I promised my niece Sakina that I would bring her water, and I could not keep her promise. Ya Bab al-Hawaij, ala lanatullah al-khum al-dhalimeen. Ya Allah, we ask you, all those who are here at this majalis, and all those who are buried, and all those mu'minat and mu'mineen in our community, may you forgive their sins through the intercession of Abab al-Hawaij, Abu Fadil Abbas. Those who are suffering throughout the world, in Pakistan, and Parachinar, and Palestine, and Bahrain, and Iran, and Iraq, wherever in the world the lover of Ali is struggling, may you give him help. Ya Allah, all those who are buried in this Qabristan, especially Marhum Nasir Master, help them in that hereafter and make their trip through Barzakh easy. Allow us to be amongst those who don't fear death, and allow us to be amongst the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen and be true Shias. Allah.